Okay, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, all praise, glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Merkak with us. And double honors to the elders, single honors to the apostles. Preaching, teaching the word of truth with sincerity, as always. In this lesson here, I'm just going to get into the third war. This third world war that's still on the it's on the brink. Yeah, check this. This was 5 days ago, but DraftKings Casino gave you. It just shows you how China is still gonna play a part in this third war. Taiwan holds live-fire military drills as Trump meets China's Xi. 检查几发。This comes amid tensions and military pressure from China toward Taiwan. So as you see there, Taiwan's military held a live fire drill in Kinmen County on May 13th, simulating the defense against enemy forces attempting to land on the island. The exercises featured Javelin missiles, howitzers, M6, the A3 tanks, and CM-21 armored vehicles. Multiple military units took part to test combined arms coordination and improve rapid battlefield response through realistic combat training. The exercise came on the morning before President Trump arrived in Beijing, amid heightened tensions and military pressure from China. Once again, and I'm going to play this video here. Just going into how powerful is North Korea's military.
सबसे बड़ी एक्टिव मिलिट्री फोर्स है। नॉर्थ कोरिया के पास दुनिया की फोर्थ सबसे बड़ी एक्टिव मिलिट्री फोर्स है, जिसमें 1 मिलियन एक्टिव पर्सनल और 4300 टैंक्स भी शामिल हैं, जिनमें से हजारों साउथ कोरिया के कैपिटल सोल के बिल्कुल करीब पोस्टेड हैं। अगरचे इनका ज्यादातर कन्वेंशनल साजो सामान पुराना और सोवियत एरा का है। इसी तरह नॉर्थ कोरिया के पास नेवी फ्लीट भी मौजूद है, जिसमें 70 से 80 सबमरीन्स शामिल हैं, जो खुफिया इन्फिल्ट्रेशन मिशंस के लिए इस्तेमाल होती हैं। एयरफोर्स 800 कॉम्बैट एयरक्राफ्ट है, लेकिन मिग 21 जैसे पुराने फाइटर जेट्स इसकी बड़ी कमजोरी समझे जाते हैं। इसके अलावा नॉर्थ कोरिया की स्पेशल ऑपरेशंस फोर्स भी है, जो गुरिल्ला वॉरफेयर और सैबोटाज ऑपरेशंस में महारत रखती है। यहाँ ये याद रहे कि नॉर्थ कोरिया में आर्म्ड सर्विस सिर्फ पेशेवराना काम नहीं है, बल्कि हर शहरी के लिए लाजमी है कि वो 17 साल की उम्र में इनलिस्ट हो।
There you go, man. North Korea's military, it looks very powerful. So I'm gonna just, and the AI North Korea's army, the Korean People's Army, KPA, is one of the largest militaries in the world. It relies heavily on mass-based conventional artillery and a growing nuclear arsenal. Active personnel: approximately 1.3 million active duty troops, alongside hundreds of thousands of reservists. The Army maintains an immense arsenal of older tanks, artillery, and multiple rocket launchers aimed directly at the South Korean border, as well as a large submarine fleet. Despite its sheer size, the KPA suffers from severe equipment obsolescence. Much of its conventional armor and aviation hardware dates back to the Soviet era and lacks the advanced stealth electronic warfare and precision targeting capabilities of modern Western and Allied forces. The military also faces challenges with logistics, fuel shortages, and troop readiness. There you go. Then again, you combine that with Russia. Let's look up how powerful is the Russian army. It says the Russian army is the world's fifth largest force with roughly 1.3 million active duty personnel, while it commands the world's largest nuclear arsenal and massive reserves of older hardware, heavy equipment. Losses in Ukraine have forced a reliance on older systems and vast high attrition infantry tactics. Russia boasts the world's third highest military expenditure, spending around 190 billion annually. It says has necessitated the use of ill-equipped infantry in aggressive engagements. Ground and air army retains a formidable base of main battle tanks, roughly 5,600, and armored vehicles bolstered by an air force second only to the United States. Despite these deep pools of resources and combat-hardened personnel, and analysts often describe Russia's military as a hybrid. Deep satellite surveys indicate the exhaustion of some frontline platforms. When compared directly to the collective forces of NATO, Russia is significantly outmatched in raw number of troops, naval ships, and combat vehicles. And just out of curiosity, how powerful is the U.S. Army? The United States is widely considered the most powerful and technological advanced fighting force on the planet. It holds the number of one spot globally in the annual global firepower rankings, largely due to its unmatched ability to project force anywhere in the world, vast financial resources, and superior logistics. Unmatched funding: the U.S. defense budget exceeds 900 billion, which is more than the military spending of the next several top spending countries combined. The U.S. operates, but that's silly though. I mean, they got 900 billion, but look at how much. Look at how. Look what's gonna happen to it though. So that's pretty funny when you think about it. So That's why I gotta get Jeremiah 49 here, verse 7. Concerning Edom, Edom, the so-called white man, thus says the Yahweh Basham outside. I will host, is wisdom no more in T-Man, his counsel perished from the prudent. Is their wisdom banished? Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan. Dedan was the capital in Edom, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. And today, Edom today is in America, the capital of Esau. 10, but I have made Esau bare, so basically just going into how the Lord's really, even though they do spend, Esau does have the highest budget, military budget, spending budget in the world. He spends more than all the countries combined. Even the top countries, China and Russia, they spend more money on their military than both of those combined. The Lord's still making him weak. The Lord's been making the U.S. look weak. It's even though they spend time that much they spend on the military, not as much Americans want to even join. Young men here in America want to. They don't even want to join the army or Marines like that, though, like they used to anymore. Because so that just goes back to because of how wicked this place is. They completely emasculated the man and put the woman on over the man and destroyed the man basically. So the young man, especially now that are pretty much a bit more wiser too than past generations. They ain't even trying to join up to fight for this a country that they really don't give a fuck about. Because these young men are also waking up and understanding that these the livelihood in America ain't shit because the women aren't shit, and yeah, they're not fighting in your military anymore. You saw the numbers have been dropping. So the Lord made Esau bare because America still is the top kingdom, and that's why they got prime example because they're able to spend 900 billion on their military. That's a lot of money, but when you look at basically how Americans are living right now, they can put that money into Americans' pocket, the American citizens' own pockets, but they're not doing that because this place is wicked. When the wicked is in power, people more. If the righteous were in power, people would be rejoicing right now. So this place ain't righteous. These people ain't happy. America has the highest suicide rates, the highest prison rates, number of incarceration rates. It has the highest divorce rates out of all countries, the highest unhappy, unfulfilling feelings rates out of all countries, the highest crime rates, really, ultimately, too, and soon the highest death rates, because the Lord's going to bring a lot of death here. Matter of fact, I'm going to Google that. So they're going to double check. Does America have the highest suicide rates? They said no. It says countries like Lesotho, Guyana, and Eswatini consistently record the highest suicide rates globally, often exceeding 25 to 30 deaths per 100,000 people. The U.S. rate is roughly half of that. Over 49,000 Americans die by suicide annually, representing an age-adjusted rate of about 14 to 15 deaths per 100,000 people. All right, there you go. Still though, I mean, they still said that it has the highest suicide rates out of wealthy developed nations. Out of all wealthy developed nations, does have the high. It's on the top of the list there. So yeah, Jeremiah 49 and 12. For thus says Yahweh Shemshai, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup. Yeah, people talking don't think that America's gonna fall down. That America won't be destroyed. That Lord ain't doesn't have a. They think they think the Lord doesn't have a future judgment in store heavy for America. No, it says right there, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken. Yeah, you're gonna drink of those people are gonna drink of the cup. They're gonna see the cup. That's the cup of America. There, you can't change it. You're a weak little mortal power will not stop that. Your unbelief will not affect that. You can manifest positivity and the Lord not doing that. That shit ain't gonna do nothing. I don't give a fuck. You can be a simple ass nigga and sit down and do your weird ass little praises to fucking Shiva, the Krishna, and but that shit's off. That shit ain't gonna save nothing, man. And art thou he that shall go altogether unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. For I have sworn by myself, the Lord says he's sworn by himself, says the Lord, that Bosra shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. Now, when the Lord says that he swears by himself, that means he ain't gonna change his word, man. Cause that's a bold statement right there. When you swear by yourself, yeah, and if the Lord were to do that, he would pollute his name. The Lord also says how his name can't be polluted. His name can't be polluted. So yeah, that's what's gonna happen. So continuing on reading on this thing is about the army of the U.S. Yeah, they spend 900 billion. Global reach: the U.S. operates a vast network of roughly 750 military bases across more than 80 countries. Yep. Who has the most military bases? The U.S. Hence why they're basically still at the top until this third war pops off, and then America sees the first missile hit here from an enemy. Then America's really gonna be looking like a bitch. But yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. also does have the highest rate of heart disease. I'm sure America is on there. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States, killing nearly 1 million Americans annually. Yeah, and that's because of the food they eat. All those vegetable oils. You ain't supposed to be eating any high amounts of that. That's not even natural. That's all just poison and chemicals that are heated in a high ass fucking heat. Now, any natural, normal oil, like olive oil, coconut oil, that shit will end up evaporating it in a lot, and that type of kind of heat for that long. It wouldn't take long for that shit to evaporate. Is yeah, is U.S. the highest in heart disease? No, the U.S. does not have the highest heart disease rate in the world. Eastern European and Central Asian countries generally experience the highest age-adjusted heart disease death rates, with nations like Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, and Uzbekistan. So I guess it doesn't, but it still is the lead. That disease, heart disease, is still the leading cause of deaths. Heart disease is responsible for nearly 1 in 5 deaths in the U.S. And also, when you go into this, uh, yeah, oh yeah, because all you gotta do is change your diet. People are too simple to even do that. Eat more fruits, vegetables. It's like raspberries, blueberries, purify your blood, unclog your blood vessels, and working out, man. Walking the treadmill, um, raising your heart, your blood circulation. The heart can get more blood, pumping more blood. Because once again, because the wicked is in power, man. The wicked is in power. When the wicked is in power, people more. This is nationally though. Someone dies from cardiovascular disease every 34 seconds. That's thanks to this devil too. National costs. Um, yeah, it says the U.S. I put what nation has the most powerful army in the world, and they said the U.S. Unmatched in global reach, technological advancement, and logistical capability, the U.S. maintains an overwhelming edge in conventional firepower and nuclear deterrence. Second is Russia, third China, fourth is India. The military, equipped with cutting-edge technology, including fifth-generation stealth fighters, F-35s and F-22s, nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, and an extensive global satellite and intelligence network. The U.S. can sustain large-scale combat operations far from its borders, supporting operations with massive transport, aircraft, and sea-lift fleets, and an advanced global logistical network. Yeah, but they don't say anything negative, and of course they don't want to say anything negative about. You saw how they had to say something negative about China's army, Russian army, but nothing negative about U.S. army here. But the scriptures does say something negative about the America's army here. It's doomed to be destroyed, and the Lord is making it weaker. And plus, you got these other nations, and plus it says that these other nations got missiles that they're gonna end up shooting at this whole America, and betrayed by their top ally, NATO. So that's even worse than what those other nations' army lacks. So that's really the point. I mean, it's second Edge 16 and 16. Like as an arrow is shot of a mighty archer, returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again. 33. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. God. Yeah, because they're gonna be drafted to. They're gonna get drafted into the war, and the war shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine.
You don't make enough money to survive. Uh, the world is in chaos. There's racial divide, all over the country. You work until you're 70. Politicians ain't worth a damn. The government is not for the people. They are more important than other people. And I ain't even just talking about racism. I'm just saying, like, you got people all over the world that think that they are better than others. You got subgroups of ethnic groups of people. You got, none of this shit makes sense anymore. And aside from, being at home,
forces essential. We may have to do a little cleanup work because we had a little long ceasefire, I guess you'd call it, but we have a blockade that's so effective. That's why we did the ceasefire. We really did the ceasefire.
From Rivers in the nation, the videos and talk of Babylon is cooked. Iran shutting down another shipping and trade routes for.
The request of other nations. I wouldn't have really been in favor of it. The war, as soon as you, but we're sort of finished militarily, pretty much. But we, David, we finished probably 70-75%. We didn't finish every one of the things. We'll go back and finish them off. The missile launches are largely gone. The manufacturing of missiles is about 80%, 80 to 85% gone. And we know where the rest of it is. So if we go in, we'll take that out very early.
Washington has reportedly issued a 5-point list of demands to Tehran. Iranian state media claim the U.S. is rejecting war reparations to Iran and seeking the removal and transfer of 400 kilograms of enriched uranium to the U.S. Washington says it will only allow one Iranian nuclear facility to remain operational, will release none of Iran's frozen assets, and make the cessation of hostilities on all fronts conditional on negotiations. RT spoke exclusively with Iran's Parliamentary National Security and Foreign Policy Commission spokesman. He says his country is prepared to respond harshly in the event of a U.S. escalation.
Here in Tehran, we are prepared for any scenario and will respond to any aggression at the highest level. Rest assured, if the Americans could have finished us off in a 40-day war, they would have. But they couldn't. They were defeated. This time we will inflict an even harsher defeat on them. Our options are also more varied. If you look back at that 40-day war, you'll see that the longer it went on, the greater our victories became. That American debacle in Isfahan, the heavy losses they suffered there, air, and the fighter jets we shot down inside the country as well as in the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman. All of that was the result of our work in the final days. If a war breaks out, we will certainly attack the enemy's interests again, both throughout the region and in neighboring countries. This attack will not be limited to the enemy's military interests and bases, but will also target their economic interests. Even though the war is supposedly over, the price of gasoline in America has not returned to its previous level. If they are interested in seeing $7 or $8 gas prices in America, they can attack again. Our options are not limited to the military sphere. We have other means as well. Aside from the Strait of Hormuz, we can also manage the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb with the help of regional resistance forces, and we can inflict even more devastating blows on the Americans. We can increase the enrichment level inside our country to above 90%. Also, we did not use a large part of our military capabilities during the 40-day war. We kept them for the future. Because we anticipated and were in fact prepared for a long-term war, we did not use many of our weapons during that period. If another war breaks out, the Americans will certainly face harder and darker days. This next war will lead to disgrace and a much bigger scandal for Trump, to the point where he will have no choice but to resign.
Peace talks between Washington and Tehran have effectively gone nowhere since the ceasefire came into effect in early April. Both sides have...
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Before I forget, yeah, I did have this. Also, last week, Russia carried out its largest drone and missile assault on Ukraine capital, Kyiv. It was 1,428 drones in 24 hours. This happened last week on the 14th. So just showing you how that's still brewing up. The Russia-Ukraine war is still brewing up. It's been a couple ceasefires throughout since when it started, but it's never been no peace deal, and it ain't gonna be no one until the third war breaks off. And then the peace deal is gonna be Hawashar's return. So approved by the U.S. Also last week, the U.S. State Department approved a massive $25.8 billion deal for the sale of defense systems and weapons to Middle Eastern countries. Yep, those Middle Eastern countries are the ones that are in the alliance with the U.S., like Saudi Arabia. They're basically with the U.S. Russia president announced that it will deploy its RS. So yeah, and it goes going back to America being the most powerful army. I mean, they might be the most powerful army still, as far as on paper and whatnot, but not as far as prophecy goes. Not as far not spiritually, as far as prophecy goes, because it's yeah, and on top of it, even though that it has the highest military spending budget, they're actually more. It actually has made America more stupid with their, as well, with how they use their weapons and manufacture their weapons. Because since World War II, they never really came up economically with Ford, and how he made a big in the second industrial boom with Ford and the car and producing mass production. Also, Russian president announced that it will deploy its RS last week. It said they will deploy its RS-28 Sarmat on combat duty by the end of the year. Described it as the most powerful weapon in the world, and technically it is. So really, Russia still has the most powerful weapon in the world, even though the U.S. may have the Google said on paper, U.S. still may be the more powerful army in the world, but It doesn't have the most powerful weapon in the world. Russia has one of the most powerful weapons in the world, is the Sarmat, or the Satan 2, also called the Satan 2 missile, which is basically like this, has the same amount of TNT in it as the Tsar bomb. As if you know anything about the Tsar bomb, is known to be the strongest missile ever produced. The Tsar bomb, though, was too slow though, as far as how heavy it was, and then flying it to that location to hit the target. With the missile defenses today, America has, it would have been able to shoot something like that down. But with the technology that the Sarmat has, it's too fast to even catch. And then yeah, and then the speed of it, if anything, actually increases the power of it as well. So I would say it's even more powerful than the Tsar bomb. It says Russian officials also said nuclear powered and hypersonic platforms still in development. Moscow continues to highlight its nuclear capabilities amid heightened tensions with the West in Ukraine war. Haxley grilled over the Iran war and the rising cost ceasefire on hold. Trump even said the ceasefire is on life support. Trump says he doesn't need any help with Iran. They can't have a nuclear weapon. It says also an article titled Pakistan allowed Iran to park military aircraft on its airfield despite mediator role in conflicts with the U.S. And that just shows you how how the Islamic Elamite nations are going to be joining up together. This is one of these, yeah. So that was all I had on that. Yeah, that's all Trump keeps saying is, oh, they can't have nuclear weapons. They can't have nuclear weapons. That's just once again, that's just a bluff too, as well, to continue to push this war, this third war. So I have this Jeremiah 51:1. I will send an enemy to destroy Babylon and the people of Babylonia. It will come like a strong wind that blows them away. It's going to be the missiles. I will send foreign soldiers to remove them from their land. Like a wind that blows chaff away, they will make the land become empty on the day of that great trouble. They will attack Babylonia from all directions. Do not give Babylon's soldiers time to pick up their weapons. Do not give them time to put on their armor. Kill all their young men. Completely destroy their whole army. Their dead bodies will lie on the ground all over Babylonia and in the streets of the city. Babylon has been like a gold cup of wine in the Lord's hand. The nations of the world have to drink that wine. When you go into that gold cup, it was the wealth that they got from being in the hand in hand with America's ways, its laws, its democracy. It made everyone become a drunk, and so they all became crazy. Yeah, because when you look at the New World Order and how these elites has them all hand in hand with each other, that wine once again, they just they want to bring this third war to further their enterprise, their franchise, and this shit is crazy. And so they all became crazy. But now Babylon will quickly fall, and enemy will destroy it. So weep for it. Find some medicine that will make its wounds better. Perhaps it will become well again. Yeah, because the people, even especially right now, is more prevalent and now more than ever. When you look at America and how fucked up it is, and people complaining about it. Yeah, there's the solution right here. Find some medicine. They ain't gonna find no medicine that will make its wounds better. Perhaps it will become well again, because it's not. The foreign people in Babylon say we tried to make its wounds better, but it was not possible to do it. Now we must leave it. We must each go back to our own country. Its punishment will have to end, no end. It will reach as high as the sky. Yep. Second Ezra 16 and 22. Indeed, provisions will be so cheap upon earth that people will imagine that peace is assured for them, and then calamity shall spring up on the earth. The sword, famine, and great confusion, for many of those who live on the earth shall perish by famine, and those who survive the famine shall die by the sword. Second Ezra 13 and 47. The Most High will stop the channels of the river again so that they may be able to cross over. Therefore, you saw the multitude gathered together in peace. This is going to be the elect. Because by this third war coming to pass, prophecy is coming to pass. This is when we're going to be, Lord's willing, myself, Lord's will be gathered, whoever the elect may be. But those who are left of your people, who are found within my holy borders, shall be saved. Therefore, when he destroys the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he will defend the people who remain. Because, yeah, the nations that are gathered together, Yahweh is going to come to destroy your nations, which this fits perfectly as well with Zephaniah 3 and 8. For my determination is to gather the nations that I may pour upon them my fierce anger. And then he will show them very many wonders. Let's go back to this.
Ceasefire came into effect in early April. Both sides have accused the other of violating the truce. U.S. Central Command, which oversees operations in the region, claims to have redirected dozens of commercial ships from the Strait of Hormuz as part of its blockade. Meanwhile, the Islamic Republic has harshly criticized the American government, saying it's actually trying to ramp up tensions and not keep energy markets stable.
The next grant line being rolled out to justify their illegal war of choice is the claim that they are preserving peace and stability in global energy markets. In reality, though, it was the reckless warmongering of the U.S. and Israeli regimes that shattered promising diplomatic processes and, through an unprovoked military aggression against Iran, deliberately injected insecurity into vital energy routes, only then to accuse Iran of destabilization in order to put into practice Goebbels' infamous dictum, accuse others of what you yourself are doing.
Tehran has also said it plans to allow commercial vessels and others from friendly nations to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, provided they pay a toll. Other ships, especially those from the U.S., will not be permitted to enter. The spokesman for the Iranian Parliament's National Security and Foreign Policy Commission has commented on this potential arrangement.
So far, this siege has been largely symbolic. Our oil exports and imports continue. They may have obstructed some ships, but we have already taken and will continue to take reciprocal action. The Americans should also expect a painful blow from our armed forces in the near future. We are currently developing a mechanism or a regime for traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. This issue is on the agenda of the National Security and Foreign Policy Commission, and God willing, it will soon be approved in an open session of Parliament, becoming law after the Guardian Council's endorsement. In essence, we are laying the legal groundwork for managing the strait. This mechanism and law will address various issues: security, military affairs, navigation.
Rothschild Bank hit list. The list is getting smaller and smaller. Back in 2000, there were only 7 countries. Looking at this article, 7 countries without a Rothschild-owned central bank: Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. So here we go. A few years later, 2003, we're down to 5. Got rid of Iraq, right? Saddam Hussein was gone. And, actually there was a little theory behind that. Saddam Hussein might have been dead before the war actually started. And it might have been his brothers actually running the country. I give a little credence to that theory because the change of policy didn't make sense. And the guy they hung at the end in Iraq, that supposedly was Saddam Hussein, no way in hell. Because, even as an amateur, I looked at him and I saw the teeth roll crooked. Saddam Hussein had perfect teeth. But the point of the story is they got rid of the problem in Iraq, and they installed the Rothschild Central Bank, and they went back to using U.S. dollars for trading oil. And, of course, Afghanistan, we invaded Afghanistan. They changed their central bank, so the list was down to 5. Now, a few years later, in 2011, 2012, it's down to 3 nations. Sudan had their revolutions. And, Shell oil companies in there, they're always having these freaking problems with the oil pipelines, rebels and stuff. But, sometimes I'm going to give you a little insight on that. I'm pretty sure what the deal is. That's to manipulate the price of oil up and down when they need a story, Sometimes I think the actual rebels are being paid by the oil companies. They want the price to go up, have an attack on the oil lines. That's in the Sudan. Now, of course, you know what happened in Libya. Colonel Gaddafi basically executed, and Hillary laughed. Ha, 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 ha. So we got 3 countries left. And, I want to point out, of the 3 that's left, Venezuela is not on the list. Because, Hugo Chavez, a lot of people thought he was the major dictator in a way he was, but, there's always the power behind the scenes. I don't think Chavez had anything to do with devaluing the Bolivar in Venezuela several times over the last many years, because I think the central banks are other people that control that, and Chavez, he has nothing to do with it. He's basically was a popular leader. Although a communist, I can tell you one thing, he actually took the communism to heart. The guy did good shit too. He actually did. He was against it. He was a thorn in his side to the Western establishment, but he did good things too. I know because he just died recently. He actually did good things. He actually did care about the poor people. But when the Bolivar was devalued, you got to remember that bank was in other hands other than Chavez, and they're not on the list, are they? The last 3 are that are owned by the Rothschild family. It wasn't even Venezuela, wasn't even on the list back here in 2000. So it goes to show you the power behind the throne was the central banks in Venezuela. So the 3 that are left are Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. And you pretty much know what's going to happen there.
We've seen this coming for some time, but it looks like the U.S. is making a move toward Cuba, and it may be sooner than later. They're tying Cuba into Iran, and they're saying now they're assessing a drone threat coming from the area, saying that they've been watching this region for the past 2-3 years, and that Cuba and Iran have been working together along with Russia to get military-grade drones into Cuba, and that they have stashed them across the island. Sounds like the type of info that you would want to drop into the minds of the masses right before you try to engage into a military type of conflict. Axios is reporting all this. Reuters, others are citing it. So they're saying this is credible information, that hundreds of these drones have been acquired. Again, they would be the Shahed type of drone that Iran is known to push and build. And they even say that they have been discussing targeting and hitting U.S. bases in Guantanamo Bay, hitting U.S. military vessels abroad, and even targeting Key West, Florida, which is 90 miles north of Havana. If these things are to be taken seriously, then anyone in,
So that is the point of the lesson. Shalom and blah blah blah.